Hi everybody! Well, 2014 is almost at a close, and looking back I realized that almost all of my videos this year have been Dragon Ball related. Now that wasn't really a plan. As I've said elsewhere, the Piccolo Daimyo arc took a lot longer than I expected it to. But, that's somewhat advantageous too, because in case you didn't realize, 2014 is the 30th anniversary year of Dragon Ball. That's right, the first chapter of Dragon Ball was released on November 20th, 1984, 30 years ago. And that can be kind of mind-blowing, especially to American fans, because Dragon Ball really didn't take off over here until the end of the 1990s, so it doesn't seem nearly as, well, I won't say old, but not nearly as well established. And so I wanted to do something for the 30th anniversary. I've been ridiculously busy lately, though. For example, I just finished 11 days straight of working for 3 different companies. I've been trying to make sure that my upcoming Dragon Ball Dissection December stays on schedule, and this isn't the only thing I'm doing for the 30th anniversary, the only thing I've done. The fine folks at Kanzenshuu are releasing a magazine for the 30th anniversary. That's right, for the 30th anniversary, Kanzenshuu is putting out this wonderful looking magazine, featuring a lot of tidbits and trivia that even I didn't know about. For my part, I was asked to write an article on the father of Son Goku, Bardock. And since I'm nowhere near that section in Dragon Ball Dissection right now, I thought it might be interesting for you guys to check out my thoughts on these later parts of the story. So, definitely go check it out at www.kanzenshuu.com/features/db30years. So, my point is, I'm really busy, and while I want to do something fun for the anniversary, I don't really have time to get terribly fancy, with editing and stuff like that. But then I realized that anniversaries are about reminiscing. So I figured I'd take a page out of my Final Fantasy Memories book and talk a little bit about my early nostalgic experiences with Dragon Ball, because I think it's fun for any fan to reflect on those early things that first got them into the fandom, those misconceptions they had, those crazy ideas that just sort of got tossed by the wayside. So let's talk about that.
On the last episode of Dragon Ball Z, Goku was given the
this right here is my first exposure to Dragon Ball Z. I first caught it in September of 1998, right when it started airing reruns of seasons 1 and 2 on Toonami, on the Cartoon Network. And I caught it pretty quickly. It was definitely, Goku was running in the afterlife, or another dimension as it was known then, and Gohan was doing his wilderness training. And since Goku and Gohan wore similar clothes and looked similar and had similar names, I crazily assumed they were father and son. But then I saw that Snake Princess episode with the dream mirror, and it looked like his kid was a smaller guy with a tail and wearing yellow, so I figured it must have just been a coincidence. Funnily enough, my friends made a similar connection because Goku and Yamcha dressed so close together. They assumed that Goku and Yamcha were brothers. That said, my best friend and upstairs neighbor Justin had actually seen dubbed Dragon Ball when it aired in 1995, those 13 episodes, and so he had a little bit of knowledge that we didn't have, although he was under the impression that those 13 episodes were the only episodes that were ever made. And because his memory was a little bit faulty from back then, he was under the impression that Piccolo was the adult version of Pilaf. So crazy. But around that time, my family got the internet for the first time, so that was really exciting. And Justin would come down to my apartment, and we spent so much time on the internet looking up Dragon Ball stuff. Granted, a lot of that long time was because it would take a long time for the sites to load, and also we'd have to wait, for Mom to get off the phone so we could use the internet. But, we spent a long time at Funimation's website, the original Funimation.net. This is long before they even had a Dragon Ball Z website, a DragonBallZ.com. And I memorized every single episode title, and at the time I believed that the next episode would wrap everything up. For some reason I thought episode 54 was the end of the series, and Goku would defeat the rest of the Ginyu, and defeat Frieza, and bring everybody back to life, and that would end everything. So, that was kind of crazy. But once we exhausted the resources on Funimation, which admittedly didn't take that long, we started finding fan sites. And since a lot of these were run by people, the fandom at the time was pretty much people who were into the fandom before it ever came to America, so they only watched the Japanese version. we were exposed to things that wouldn't come over for years. So we'd see pictures of Gotenks and be like, well, who the hell is that? Granted, it wasn't exactly like official products weren't coming out with that. If anybody remembers the action figure line from the late 90s, they had figures of everything, and it didn't make the least bit of sense at all. Like there'd be figures of SSJ Goku and Cell and Majin Buu, Android number 16 and some guy named Mr. Savage. I didn't know who any of these people were, but yeah, I bought so many of them. It was crazy having all this information out there and not really knowing how any of it connected to anything else. We just knew that this was the future, and eventually we'd get to see it. In early 1999, Toonami began a segment called Toonami Movies, and they ended up airing all 3 of the Dragon Ball Z movies on Friday afternoons. And this is when I began to want to record Dragon Ball Z. As a kid, I recorded everything. I have tons and tons of tapes of old Nick at Night stuff. I had tons of tapes of Happy Days. I used to record the local forecast on the Weather Channel. So by this point, my mom was getting pretty sick of all this, and she refused to buy me any more blank tapes. So she insisted I record over something I already had. Her mindset was, you're almost in high school. There's no way you're going to be into this little goofy cartoon for that much longer. Shows what she knows. So I recorded over some old tapes and recorded all 3 of the movies and eventually all of the series that had come up at that time. But movie 2 was my first exposure to the Japanese score. I didn't know it at the time. I thought it sounded different because it was a movie and they had like a bigger budget and stuff like that. All I knew was that it sounded amazing and I loved it. And to this day, the movie 2 score is one of my favorites. Also, for some reason, they aired the movies in reverse order, which I also didn't realize at the time. All I knew was that Gohan was getting younger with each successive movie, and I guess common sense should have told me that that was, they were airing them out of order. But I was used to American cartoons where they play fast and loose with continuity all the time. Like, Pebbles and Bam Bam grew up into teenagers and fell in love. Let's pretend that never happened. They're babies again. Scooby-Doo starts solving mysteries with all these other people. Well, that never happened. Bring back Fred and Velma. So I just thought they were doing the same thing here. Like, oh, well, Gohan's getting older. Forget about that. Let's bring him back to when he was a kid and didn't fight anymore. So, in trying to get myself as knowledgeable as possible, I bought every Dragon Ball tape that Funimation put out. All 13 episodes plus the first movie. So, that was of course 7 tapes. And my friends would come over and we'd sit in my room and watch them on my TV. And, but I remember one of those tapes came with, actually it might have been the one for Dragon Ball Movie 2 when they put that out that summer. Came with a flyer. I wish I still had this. Maybe I still have it somewhere, I don't know. This simple little yellow flyer announcing that this fall, 50 new episodes of Dragon Ball Z are going to be airing on Cartoon Network, and we lost our minds. We'd seen the same 53 episodes over and over and over again at this point. And I remember, trying to sound as knowledgeable as I could. I sent an email to Funimation going, oh, this is so cool. Is this going to get us all the way to the Cell games? Yeah, I was an idiot. But Cartoon Network really heavily promoted this. They called the premiere day Z-Day. It was like September 13th, I think, of 99. I remember, sitting around in the cafeteria at school that day, and we were all just talking excitedly about this, wanted to get home and watch Z-Day. Granted, we'd seen a little bit of the new episodes before. My friend Chris had bought 2 of the Frieza tapes, because Funimation was putting out some of the tapes before they came on TV to entice us to buy them. And so I'd seen some of the new episodes, I'd heard the new voices and the new music, and I hated all of it. I was excited, it was great to see new episodes, but I thought the new voices and music were terrible. But despite the fact that I thought Season 3 was of low quality, and I still think it is, it was a very exciting time to watch new episodes on TV every day, and not knowing exactly where it was going to go. And I remember my friend Kelly and I were just, we would chant every day, kill Krillin, because we knew it was coming and we wanted to see Goku hurry up and transform. So, I can still hear snippets of Season 3 and feel very nostalgic about it, even though I know it's terrible. So, we watched all of Season 3, and then that following spring, something happened to me that would change me forever. My mom got a new computer. and it was a much better, much faster computer, which meant that I could access websites a lot faster, and somehow I managed to find the most popular Dragon Ball websites of the day. So I found sites like Planet Namek, and Kanzenshuu EX, which is now Kanzenshuu, Ginga Giri Giri, and Dragon Ball Z Uncensored. And it was through those that I first became exposed to the original version of the series, the Japanese version, and I began to find out what it, all the stuff that Funimation had cut out or censored or changed or mistranslated or what have you. I also found Curtis Hoffman's manga summaries for the first time, which had already been done years before this. But that greatly expanded my knowledge of what came before and what came after, and helped stop me from saying extraordinarily stupid things like I used to before that. But that summer, by that summer I knew I had to see, pure original Dragon Ball Z. So I went to my local Suncoast, and at that time the only subtitled Dragon Ball Z there was the first 3 movies. So I bought Dragon Ball Z Movie 3 on subtitled VHS, and I watched that. I knew I had to get more, so I spent that summer buying fan subs. My first 3 tapes were the finals of the 21st Budokai, and the first 4 Great Saiyaman episodes. And there was no turning back at that point. I was hooked. That was all Dragon Ball was to me at that point. Later on, I dabbled into GT a little bit. I rebought, the Japanese versions of the fight against Nappa and Vegeta to see what it was that I didn't get to see on TV before, stuff like that. So once I started recording Dragon Ball off the television, this is a little bit before I got into the Japanese version, I had to share it with people. So during school breaks, I would go visit my cousins, and I got my younger cousin Joseph into it really heavily, and we watched every episode through the Frieza arc. And even my older cousin Nathan, who was like 17 at the time, thought Frieza was really cool. And then later on, once I got my fan subs, I snuck some of those in there as well. And when Joseph saw Gohan in high school, his mind was blown. He was just mesmerized by this. Didn't understand it at all, but it was like, oh wow. Sadly, the next time I came back and I asked, hey, you want to watch Dragon Ball Z? He was all, Dragon Ball Z's gay. And that's the last time we ever talked on the subject. Even to this day, it's never come up again. So, yeah, that was a bit bittersweet. That fall, my friends and I entered high school, and season 4 aired for the first time, but it just wasn't the same anymore, at least not for me. I had tasted the forbidden fruit of knowledge, and I just couldn't go back anymore. So I still watched every episode of season 4, and that took us all the way through the Cell games, and I recorded every episode. But I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. I cringed at every inaccuracy, every mispronunciation, everything I knew was wrong, and I just couldn't enjoy it, and I couldn't enjoy it anymore. And also, that meant that it was no longer a social thing for me anymore, because I became that guy. It was my mission now to spread the gospel, so to speak. And so I was, telling everybody, this is wrong, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. And so I'm sure I wasn't terribly fun to be around either. But I couldn't relate to them anymore. We were just on separate wavelengths with Dragon Ball. And actually that's kind of the way it is nowadays. I'm very private about Dragon Ball in real life. I mean, I'll wear a shirt, but I won't talk about it. It's not that I'm ashamed of it. I still find people all the time who are fans of Dragon Ball, but it's never a fan of the same Dragon Ball that I am. And so we can't really talk about it, and it just becomes kind of awkward for me, because they'll say something that's wrong, either because it's a dub mistranslation, or just some of the crazy internet rumors that go around, because they still do. And, I'll get people saying, oh, there's going to be a new series because of the success of Battle of Gods, and yeah, I don't like being that guy anymore. I don't like correcting people. There's just not that kind of common ground usually, so I smile and I'm like, yeah, we're fans of Dragon Ball, that's great, and then I'll just walk away and not really engage in any kind of in-depth conversation. So it's ever since the turn of the century, it's been kind of more of an inward thing for me. That Christmas, though, I insisted on getting a DVD player. I had to have a DVD player, and it's not because I cared about picture quality or moving into a new modern era of home video. It's just because Funimation finally started putting putting out subtitled Dragon Ball Z episodes, only they were just on DVD, so I had to get a DVD player so I could get Dragon Ball Z DVDs. And things pretty much continued on from there. I stopped watching it on TV after season 4. I just didn't want to anymore. I bought, you know, the occasional Dragon Ball Z DVD when I could, but, you know, it was only 3 to 4 episodes a piece, so I knew I'd never get the entire series. I bought all of the Dragon Ball manga in English when it came out, although that didn't finish until 2006. I checked Kanzenshuu EX every day. I bought some of the PS2 era video games, and I finally collected the entire Dragon Ball Z TV series, and the Dragon Box is finished in 2011, as people who follow this channel would know. And in 2009, I joined the Kanzenshuu EX, now Kanzenshuu forums, which finally allowed me to have some people I could talk to, even though it was just online, you know, like-minded fans like myself. And obviously, I've been doing a Dragon Ball analysis series on this channel for nearly 3 years now. So, yeah, when my mom said that I would very quickly grow out of this little goofy cartoon, she obviously had no idea what I was getting myself into. And so, those are my 30th anniversary, even though it's not really the anniversary because I haven't been into the series for 30 years, but you understand what I'm saying. Those are my memories. Please feel free to share your own Dragon Ball stories in the comments below. So get ready for Dragon Ball Dissection December coming up soon. Be sure to check out the Kanzenshuu 30th Anniversary magazine over on their site, and I will talk to you guys later. See ya!